Hi friends, I'm excited to share a new layout with you today for the Vicki Boutin design team. I am using the Flower Emporium collection, and I'm using this collection in a little bit different way this time. It will be more of a graphic layout and less of a floral layout. So I am starting with a piece of white Foundations mixed media white cardstock, and then I am putting Distress Oxides on the background. So I'm creating a rainbow of just 5 colors here. So I'm going to do picked raspberry. The orange will be crackling campfire. And for many of these, I'm just using the ink that is on my ink blending brushes already. Distress Oxide stays for a long time on brushes, so you can use it, over and over without having to re-wet the blending brush. But the last color that I used was crackling campfire, and then the yellow is fossilized amber. The green is mowed lawn, and then the blue was broken china. So what I did is I used my Distress Oxides and I let those dry, and I did use a heat gun to make sure that they were good and set. And then what I am doing is I am now taking the Distress Ink re-inkers. And I said this in my last video, but in case you didn't see it, a lot of times people will say that you can't use Distress Oxide and Distress Ink on the same layout, and you definitely should not do that with them wet. But if you dry a layer and then wait to dry to add the next layer until the other one is dry, you can actually layer them on top of each other. And so here on this layout, I will actually be using, I started with Distress Oxide, now I'm using Distress Ink, and then I'm going to go back to Distress Oxide, and all of it works just fine together. So the key is just to make sure all the layers are dry. So I'm going back with the Distress Ink re-inkers, and these are the bottles that you're supposed to use to re-ink ink pads, but I use them just as liquid watercolor. So a little bit goes a long way with these. All of this green that you see here, this vivid color, that's 1 drop of ink. So you want to be careful if you are using the re-inkers to make sure it is a concentrated color, so you get a lot of color, a lot of bang for your buck there, and a lot of color. So with just a little bit of product. And then the last color again is broken china. And I think I actually put, I think I'm going to put a drop of broken china and a drop of salvaged patina. I actually think I have both of those in there. So on that last row, I used 2 different colors. And you'll see I am just going through, I'm sort of using the packaging technique, but not necessarily like smushing it down. I am just kind of using it to help me spread the ink around. And then I go back with my brush and use the brush to add even more, or to move it around even more. And so now I am taking this stencil. This is a Vicki Boutin stencil. It's one of her exclusive stencils, and it's circles, and then some of the circles almost look like they have lines through them, or like kind of like a zebra pattern, or a like a scribble through them. I love this stencil, and so I am taking I'm going back now to Distress Ink, and I am going and adding the Distress Ink over on top of those colors through the stencil. So all the same colors that I've already used. So this layout is going to be with all of these layers, tone on tone. So I'm not switching colors or changing colors or anything. I'm using the exact same colors and going back and adding yet again another layer. So this will be the 3rd layer of color. And really, sometimes I have people ask, like, why did you add that first layer of Distress Oxide? Or, why do you add all these different layers? So it does help me, adding the Distress Oxide first helps me know where I want the Distress Ink to go. So it really kind of, and then it's also a softer layer, like a softer color. So you don't see it really vividly poking through, but you do see kind of that more cloudy look behind in places. So it helps me guide the color and guide what I'm thinking, getting everything on the page. So now I am taking stamps from the Bold and Bright collection, and these are they almost look like coffee stain rings, and they have just kind of a couple of little circles, like hand drawn, and then there's one side that has kind of looks like a few little dots connected. So I am taking that stamp and I'm going around and kind of randomly stamping around the circles So most of this will be covered up. This background that looks like so much, it's got a lot going on right now. A lot of it will be covered up on the final layout. So the process of that is starting now. So I am taking some white gesso because I kind of wanted the color in the background, I sort of wanted it to look faded and kind of aged a little bit. And so I am taking this white gesso and just going over it very lightly. You can see I'm not adding like a ton of it. I'm adding it very lightly and then spreading it around pretty quickly to try to get it to kind of fade out a little bit. And the only reason you don't have to do this, you could totally leave it very vivid and bright, but you're going to see that I'm going to be adding lots of things on top of it. So I wanted it to sort of look just a little bit distressed in the back. So I'm going to add a little bit of white. You'll still see all of those layers poking through. You still see all of the color. It's just not so much. And then here I'm going to take some cosmic watercolors, and I am going to splatter each of the colors on. Of course, the only color I don't have is orange, so I'm using a Shimmer's Paints Carrot Top for that, for the orange layer. But I'm going to do the pink, yellow, green, and turquoise from the Cosmic Watercolors. And so I'm going to get all of those on. And these I will end up kind of using a paper towel to make sure they're good and dry. So I'll leave them on for a little while, and then I will use a paper towel to kind of dry it up a little bit. The Cosmic Watercolors, the reason I'm adding these on top, number one, I wanted splatters because I like it to look a little bit messy and a little bit crazy. So I'm adding that, and then also the Cosmic Watercolors add that shimmer effect. And because I've kind of faded everything else out with a little bit of the gesso, I wanted just a touch of sparkle poking through before I go and add the next layer. So I'm getting all of that done. And then I let it dry for a little bit. Off camera, it is dry now. And I also used a paper towel, of course, I said, to dry up a little bit of it. And then once it was all dry, I am taking now black acrylic paint. And don't cringe. It's going to be okay. In my mind, sort of, when I started doing this, I was cringing myself a little bit. Like, oh gosh, what have I done here? But it turns out in the end. Because I was wanting a graphic kind of sort of abstract layout, and I do end up with that. So I used my T-square ruler to make sure that first line was straight. Then you can kind of see I kind of freehanded some stripes, and now I'm going to go back with the T-square ruler. And these stripes that I'm adding are very imperfect. So they're straight. I'm using the T-square ruler to make sure they're straight, but they're all different kind of thicknesses and widths apart. Like, I'm not measuring how far in between. I'm just kind of eyeballing it a little bit. And then I laid my ruler back down to kind of get some extra little lines in there. And then you'll see, I'm going to go back. So the paintbrush that I'm using is not my normal paintbrush. It's actually a thinner paintbrush. It's one of the thinner, kind of long, thinner brushes that I have. So I normally use a 10. I don't know what this one is, but it's pretty skinny. And I'm going and just adding those lines. Oh, and I switched to even another brush here. I used several different brushes in this process just to kind of get the look that I was going for. And I wanted them to kind of all look different. So I wanted some thick, some thin. And then now what I'm doing is I'm taking a little ruler that I've got, and I'm using just the side of the ruler to go and kind of add like almost like an ink stain, like a imperfect kind of, I'm just kind of dipping it in the black acrylic paint, and some of it gets paint on it, some of it doesn't. So I'm definitely getting very imperfect lines here, and I'm just going and kind of stamping that down in between those lines to kind of look like, I don't know, to add some extra lines in there. I did not want anything about this to look too perfect or too you know, planned. I just kind of wanted it to look abstract is the best word I can use. So I got those done, and now it is dry. So what I will be doing, because that is a lot on the background. So there's the color, and then there's the black, and it's very bold and vivid. It's a lot. So I am going to take circles of patterned paper, the main colors that I used. So I used 5 colors on the background, 5 main colors on the background. So I am going to take patterned paper from the Flower Emporium collection, and I'm going to add circles to that background. I'm going to layer this patterned paper on top. Some of the circles will be hanging off the edge of the paper, so you could kind of see when I was using these are my old school Creative Memories circle cutters they're my favorite circle cutters. I have new fancy ones, but I always go back to these because I love them. So I'm cutting circles, but you could see like on that orange paper when I cut it, I didn't have the whole circle. It's totally fine because it's going to be hanging off the edge of the paper. So I get these cut, and I used this pattern paper that I'm using here right now that I'm cutting because I loved the blue green. It's kind of like cloudy almost, it looks like. So I loved that pattern paper, and you'll see in my photo that I'm adding, there are some cloud. It kind of looks cloudy in the background of the photo. There's some clouds. So I distressed the edges of each of those circles. Kind of did that off camera. So it looks very distressed. And then I took my photo and I added a white mat, and then I added colorful striped patterned paper from the Flower Emporium collection. And then I added a black cardstock. So it's got 3 layers behind that photo. The black helps it stand out from the background. The white mat helps the photo stand out from the pattern paper that I have behind it. So all of those layers there are purposeful. And this layout I am creating, I will have a new challenge up in the Vicki Boutin creative community to add circles and stripes to your layout. So I'm showing you several different ways. I'm adding lots of different circles and then stripes in a couple of different ways. So I have them on the background, and then I also have them in the patterned paper behind the photo. And then of course circles, I'm adding all kinds of circles. I did stamps, stencils. I'm doing, right now, these are rub-ons from the Flower Emporium collection. So I've got some kind of pinky, orangey rub-ons that I did up there on that pink circle. And then I'm going now with a very bold black outline, you know, almost like another coffee stain, kind of overlapped circles. And these rub-ons, the Flower 49 and Market rub-ons are fantastic. Every single time I use them, I'm like, gosh, these are so easy to use. So the quality is just really, really good. So I'm adding some circles, and I will end up that rub-on that I did just there on that pink. I will end up covering. I didn't like how that looked, so I will end up covering that up. So I cut another of the pink patterned paper, a different pink patterned paper from the Flower Emporium collection, another little circle. And I distress the edges of that, and I'm going to kind of just cover up those rub-ons because you can't get them off. Once you get them on, the rub-ons are so good that there's no taking it off once you've got it on. So you got to make sure that you really like how it looks before you adhere those down. So I just covered it up with another piece of pink patterned paper, and I love that. I love how that looks anyway. I always love layers, so no problem there. I'm going to go ahead and glue down the photo. But it does go to show you there's always a way, you know, when you get to a point in your layout where you're like, oh my gosh, I've totally messed this up. I'm going to have to throw it away. Don't throw it away. Just cover it up. Either cover it up with mixed media or cover it up with more patterned paper. That's what I always do. So I just keep covering it up until I like how it looks. So I will spend quite a bit of time adding rub-ons all around the layout. So my goal here, I wanted each of the color areas to be multi-layered. So each of those circles of patterned paper, I wanted there to be some interesting things and playful things. The layout that or the photo that I'm scrapbooking is my kids with their cousins, and it was we went to the ice cream shop, and we all have different different flavors of ice cream, and it was just a really playful photo. There's a flying cow in the background, and that's kind of what inspired the black and white. I wanted to use a lot of black and white elements because I just thought the cow was really cute. And then the kids are all in different colors. So I was combining kind of the whole, I love black and white graphic elements mixed in with lots of colors. So the happy and the smile, those are chipboard words from the chipboard set in the Flower Emporium collection. And then same thing with the frames, those black and white circle frames. So I love how the black and white plays off of the color and all of the color I have in the background. So that's really where all of it's coming from, is the photo. So I wanted each of the places to be very playful, each of the, sections of the layout to be very playful and happy. So my title is going to be Happy Smile, and then I'm going to use the rub-ons underneath that to add love always. So they're all, because my kids love their cousins. So I'm going to add a few more rub-ons from the collection. And then I will pull back out. I'm not quite ready yet. I'm still doing add-on rub-ons here. So I'm adding the always over the word love. And that's just a bone folder that I'm using to rub the rub-ons on. But you also saw that I use scissors sometimes, and sometimes I'd use the end of a pencil, like whatever I have there that's hard. Sometimes I use just my fingernail. These, because of the quality of the rub-ons, you can really use almost anything and they work well. So just want to make sure you get them good and stuck down before you start lifting. And I always lift a little bit at a time just to double check and make sure that they're down before I pull quickly. I always go slow with rub-ons and lift a little bit at a time to make sure I've got it. And you can kind of see here, so that black and white frame that I'm using over there on the right side, I'm not framing anything. I'm just framing like patterned paper and rub-ons. But I am kind of adding the rub-ons to sort of look like they're layered behind that frame. And I add some more in the top right of that green corner. And so now what I'm doing is I am going back and adding stamps. And I think these are Print Shop. So I have circle stamps from the Bold and Bright collection, and also from Print Shop, and then also the Mixed Media collection that came out. So lots of really great circle stamps that Vicki Boutin has come out with different collections. But I think these are the Print Shop. So I went ahead and added some stamps over there in that yellow circle on the left. And then I have little teeny tiny, what I'm adding right now is little teeny tiny chipboard pieces that have stars in all the colors. So like I have a black one that has a pink star on it, a black one that has a green star, yellow star, orange star, blue star. So that's what I'm adding right now, is little teeny tiny details. It's my favorite thing to do, is to go and add lots of little teeny tiny things that you see as you look at close-ups. You're like, oh, there's something else. Oh, there's something else. I love to find lots of things to see in a layout. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding holes with my X-Acto knife. I just am freehanding, going around and adding some holes, and I am going to add black thread around every circle. So this took quite a bit of time. Most of it is going to be done, well, all of it's really going to be done off camera. So now it's done. You see around the orange circle, I added black hand stitching, the pink, and then the circles that were inside of circles, I added some stitching around those as well. Now what I'm pulling out, this is a box of sequins, and I have all my sequins in rainbow order. So I have several boxes of sequins, and they're just like bulk sequins that I have purchased in lots of different colors, and I'm going to add those sequins in tone on tone. So several different variations of pink sequins up there in the pink section, the orange, yellow, green, and blue. And then I will add some lines. I'm using a ruler to add some lines for journaling down here in this blue circle. And I sort of did double lines because I just liked how it looked. So I'm going to add my journaling down there about this photo. And then I will add some pops of color in all 5 of these colors, and then that's going to wrap up the layout. So I hope you will go over to the Vicki Boutin Creative Community on Facebook and check out the challenge that I've got loaded. And it's going to just be to add stripes and circles to a layout. So you can do that in lots of different ways with pattern paper, mixed media, ephemera, lots of different choices there. But I hope you found something inspiring in this video, and if you did, if you'll give it a like, and if you're not subscribing yet, I hope you will, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.